people in the place to be.
You're now listening to the legendary Vinyl Esquire. Vinyl Esquire.
The podcast that uplifts the DJ culture and honors our legends. Vinyl Esquire with DJ Rip.
Vinyl Esquire.
Hype the snare, now I gotta play the radio play.
And now, the Zulu beat mix of the week. Master Scratch by Afrika Islam, son of Bamba.
Afrika Islam was rocking the jams, and on the other side of town was a kid named
Vinyl Esquire.
Vinyl Esquire. Culture, truth, music, speed of life, fast. It's like walking barefoot over broken glass.
And now, Afrika Islam, son of Bamba.
Vinyl Esquire. Vinyl Esquire. You're now listening to the legendary Vinyl Esquire.
Afrika Islam.
Vinyl Esquire.
Afrika Bambaataa Live, DJ Jazzy J Live, and of course, the most from coast to coast, just truly, the son of Bambaataa, Afrika Islam.
Hello world, I want to welcome you to Vinyl Esquire, the podcast that delivers culture, truth, music. Would you join me, please, in welcoming DJ Rip?
Hello world, I would like to welcome you to Vinyl Esquire, and my name is DJ Rip, and Vinyl Esquire is the DJ podcast that uplifts the DJ culture and honors our legends. And without further ado, I would like to introduce the legendary DJ, the legendary producer and icon. I would like to welcome to Vinyl Esquire, the legendary Afrika Islam.
Yo, peace, Afrika Islam, Zulu Nation, Bronx, New York.
Yes, sir, Africa. How are you doing, my man?
Very good, man. Good to be back in the United States. Good to be back wearing double mask. Good to be back standing 6 feet away from people that smell at the supermarket.
Absolutely. So you've been across the water for a long time. You know what I mean? How does it feel to be back in America? Now I know we're going through COVID, which is a little odd, but overall, how does it feel to be back?
Well, I'm back every 3 months. This is just another trip. I had to come back because of the projects that me and Ice-T are working on, and this was the available time I could get a flight to come back from Berlin to New York. So I'm back. I do my normal touchdown, grab White Castle hamburgers, grab like Jamaican patties, grab Starbucks, stuff like that, and grab my ginger ales and chill, look at my New York pizza.
Absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I want to thank you for allowing me to interview you on Vinyl Esquire. So let's go ahead and get right to it. I want to go back to the beginning. I believe that you are underrated in so many ways. You're an icon, and I just think that you're a legendary DJ and producer. I want to go all the way to the beginning, okay? So Islam, tell me who or what made you want to be a DJ?
Well, I'm a member of the Zulu Nation. So it's basically my job to perfect the skills of DJing and create something new in the genre that we started. And because I'm known as the son of Bambaataa, and based like he's the master of records, it was my job to dig in the crates and actually create the crates and pull out probably about 80% of the hip hop records that were the primary hip hop records for the last 40 years. So that was my job, to expand hip-hop, without any prejudice or bias, to expand hip-hop. So having to battle Flash, having to battle Casanova Fly, having to battle the Cold Crush, having to battle Breakin and Baron, having to battle Herc is what my immediate mission was, because I was a Zulu King b-boy.
Right.
And being that I came in from the floor up, getting to be in that slot of being a DJ, because the DJ that was there before me was another son of Bambaataa, which is DJ Zambu, and for me to become an Africa is so people know. I mean, Afrika Islam, it's a title in the Zulu Nation to achieve that level, and mine was more so a level of b-boying and then becoming DJing, but whatever I could do in order to help the Zulu Nation expand, the hip hop culture coming out of New York and basically coming from us, I did. So it didn't matter what I did to make it happen. I rolled with all parts of the elements to make it happen. I was not a graph artist, and I respected MCs too much, but I played for all of them. Whether it was Melly Mel or whether it was Kaz, we were all Zulu Kings. So me DJing behind them, that was just part of my mission. The other part was the tag team, the two-man team. It was something that was created, something that was new. Be with me and my partner Jazzy J when we used to lock arms, because he was a b-boy as well. So we used to lock arms and kind of transform and play as one person, which was our creative spark into the whole DJ movement. But that's because of being a member of the Zulu Nation. I think it was not about biting anything. It was about just being creative. So that's my beginnings into it.
Wow.
In
Wow.
1976, 77, I'm a battle DJ, but I was a b-boy.
Got you. So would you say that Bambaataa was your inspiration for wanting to be a DJ?
Bambaataa allowed me to DJ, but at the same time, to me, I thought the best hybrid was the skills of Flash, the skills of Theodore, and the record collection of Bambaataa. So that's what I wanted to do. So I came up, Flash was the white ghost, you know what I mean? I came up, as the song said, South Bronx, you know what I mean? So it says I'm on one side of town, Flash is on the other side of town. But in actuality, that's really true, because it's like my mission was, how do we beat the master,
Wow.
So, yes,
okay.
Of course, I mean, you can't say, just for the simple reason of what Flash did, the pity pats and the spin backs, there's a lot more to it than just what you might see on camera. You got to remember, it's like we're playing on turntables with needles that skip. You know what I mean? Put that element back into the game now. It's like you had to actually balance your speed, and you actually had to balance your technique on how light you even turned a turntable back for a needle not to skip. That method, that skill set, I mean, that doesn't happen when you're on a laptop.
Right. Absolutely. 100%.
You could be gorilla hands and still be able to accomplish something. But when it came down to a needle or a needle drop, can't do that with a laptop or a program. But that part of it is something that only those masters knew. And you have to give it to Flash. You have to give it to Theodore. You have to give it to those that came up in that battle. To do spin backs then on good times, half a rotation, quarter rotation, to do these spin backs, there had to be adjustments made to those technique turntables.
Right.
What I mean by that is you had to balance it where you didn't get a hum, from all the bass that was hitting. That was us. That was hip hop that brought that. Cueing, that was hip hop that brought that in. Now it's used by all DJs as something that comes along with the passage, but no, it didn't exist. You had to take the rubber off of a turntable, but what would somebody know now if they never knew the rubber came on the turntable? We created those slip mats. We created those slip mats out of plastic or out of record covers that were cut out into a circular, 12-inch circular, then sprayed down with starch in order for the record to be, as in a sense of a lubrication for the record, so you could spin the record back. There were coins and there were weights and pennies that were put on those needles. These needles weren't made for scratching in those days. Those needles were made to play a record.
Right.
So all these adjustments had to go into developing the technique that you might take for granted now, but we can play on CD players and laptops and Ableton or Tractor programs. Or, we can play in any of those programs. We can. I doubt if you take those away from the DJs that are playing now and put them on vinyl without anything on a needle, would they be able to even survive the battle?
Right. And you're 100% right, and probably not. So Islam. Okay. So let's say 76 is your starting point. Would you say that that's correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Zulu Nation, Zulu Kings. I understand that you were a part of Rocksteady too. Is that correct?
I was the DJ at Rocksteady.
Absolutely. So what was your name? Did you have a name before you became Afrika Islam?
DJ Islam.
DJ Islam. Got you. And then you were given the Afrika name through Bambaataa, correct?
I was given the African name as I came up through the ranks to be able, once I got to that stage.
Absolutely.
They said the son of Bambaataa, so the African name was passed down to me. That's correct.
Incredible. Okay, so you're a DJ. And now, what was your position in the Zulu Nation and with Bambaataa? I understand you're the son. You were titled the son, or you earned the name the son of Bambaataa, correct?
That's correct.
So what was your position, like when y'all did jams? You were the battle DJ, the turntablist with the tricks. What did you do?
See, everything you're talking about didn't exist.
Right, okay.
There was no battle DJ or turntables with the tricks. There were just DJs that had their style. And everything else that came from that style became a turntablist. But you're just talking about DJs that Flash had his style, Theodore had his needle drops. Bambaataa was a master of records. Myself and Jazzy J, we were the ones that were able to man the turntables better than Bam. But, there were other DJs. There was DST, there was Tibbs, there was Kaz. There were other DJs that were in the Zulu Nation family. But if you're saying specifically behind me and behind Bambaataa, I was one, but I ran my own crew. I ran my division, which was called the Mayberry Crew, which was actually myself and DJ Ed LaRock. Unfortunately, early in the game in '77, Ed LaRock died. He got shot. You know what I mean? So he was one of the first casualties of hip-hop. So he got shot. So me running my crew was me and Jazzy J together, and the name of the crew was called the Funk Machine. And, of course, we had MCs, but it was another force as part of the Zulu Nation entire family. But Red Alert was there. Red Alert played. I played, but I was able to have my own crew, my own unit, meaning my own sound system, my own unit, which was part of the Zulu Nation, but it was my own unit, my own. So it was an extension, but it was still the same family.
Got you. And that was the Funk Machine, correct?
That's correct.
So who was all a part of the Funk Machine?
Donald D., who became the legendary B-Boy Rock the House Show of Girls. That was my MC. Kid Vicious, MC Elroy, and LJ were the four MCs that I dealt with. And Jazzy J was my partner, because we were always doing the tag team situation, the back and forth tag teams, but the way we did it was just simply different.
Wow.
And DJ Superman built the system, built the sound system, but I'm just saying we just did it differently because we were B-boys. We were able to do things on those turntables as two B-boys separately. So, whether it was back spinning with one hand and the other hand, back spinning, that, Flash and Disco B could have done that. But whether it was locking into one place and going back to back, locked in a position where both our arms were locked,
right?
Nobody was doing that. You kind of had to be a B-boy to do that, and we were.
Got you. It sounds incredible. So Funk Machine, did you put music together and produce music for Funk Machine?
As far as you mean a record or the battles?
For a record. Did you ever put out a record?
My first record I put out was the Zulu Kings, Africa and the Zulu Kings, which was Melly Mel, Ice-T, Bronx Style Bob. That was the first record I put out. As actually putting out records outside of Soul Sonic Force and Jazzy 5. Outside of that, that was my solo project. And another project called The Bass Pipe, which was with Van Silk and Grandmaster Melly Mel. So these were the ones, that's what I was contributing as far as my part of the Zulu Nation. But when you're talking about 76, 77, this is battles in the park.
Right, absolutely.
This is a different situation. This is, you come with your crates, I come with my crates, we put it out, you play, we play. I'm the son of Bambaataa. I'm coming in with 40 crates. If you have 20, I have 40. If you have 40, I got 60. If you got 60, I'll come with 120.
Wow. Okay. So now, all right, late 70s, right? So yes. Where did the Prince of Charm come from? Where did that title come from?
I think it's a rhyme with the word Islam. I don't think there was too many words that came with Islam. Right now they could have called me the DJ terrorist. People would have said, oh, Islam. But instead of that, I think it was the Prince of Charm, Africa, Islam. I think that's where the rhyme came from. And that probably came from one of the four MCs that were in, whether it was Donald D or LJ or Kid Vicious or someone in the Zulu Nation, but could have came from Melly Mel or Kaz. So,
wow.
But
Gotcha.
That's what it was. It was the rhyme.
Absolutely. So Funk Machine, and you're doing, late 70s. You're in the parks, right? And
Yes.
you and Jazzy J are behind the turntables. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is the scene, and everyone else had their own crews as well. Okay. Incredible.
Yes.
So what got you into the position to start producing records? What made you want to be a producer?
Nothing. It didn't matter. I mean, I wasn't into doing rap records because I had so many beats, because of Bambaataa and because of our efforts of all the other Zulu Nation members that were, actually creating what hip hop sounded like. Because digging in the crates, we were digging in record stores and pulling out beats. That meant that you went in and you bought and listened to every jazz record with a drummer on it, every jazz record with a saxophone player on it. You listen to country records, you listen to new wave records, you listen to records to find the beats. You didn't go just buy the package that had a record that had a compilation of 20 beats that were already being done. The beats that were being used at the T Connection and the PAL and in the park that we were cutting back and forth every 4 and 8 bars, these were found. And there were only, say there were 200 DJs, there was only 4 that had those records. That became the staple of hip hop, the Substitutions, the Funky Drummers, the Apaches. There was only about four people that had it. And if other people had it, they probably only had one copy. So that means they couldn't cut it back unless they went out and made a mixtape or a cassette tape. So the first thing that I actually did on myself was fusion beats, where I actually took several records, which is basically, I think it's a hip hop classic, where I actually did a pause tape, and it was fusion beats. And on the other side of fusion beats was Grandmaster Flash live at Bronx River, which was the battle, Flash against Bambaataa.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's the other side. But my side, that's actually me on a pause button. That was my introduction to like acetates and mashups, what you would call now. But that's what made me go, shit, I could do this. But I had the feeling from it, from all the training of always cutting your beat, practicing with your MCs. You got to remember, it's like the difference from the beat juggling and everything else. They gave the DJ, your MCs gave you that 25 minutes. Yo, I'm going to go solo, and then let's see what you can do. So that's where the good time cuts came from. It's because it was the drummer's solo. It was the DJ solo. That's what it is. Let's see what my DJ can do. But most of the time, man, you're cutting behind 4 MCs, and you got to stay on beat. And this is the Kumo D's. This is the Spoonie G's. This is the Love Bug Starskis. This is the Busy Bee Starskis. This is the Cold Crush. Go listen to what they did. If you listen to Beastie Boys or Run DMC, you're hearing the Cold Crush.
Right, absolutely, 100%.
So if you're listening to Planet Rock and the way it's done, you're listening to Soul Sonic Force like cut down to 12 minutes instead of 4 hours or 8 hours at a block party or a Bronx River party or PAL party or the Autobahn Ballroom or Harlem World. That's what you're listening to. Somebody's back there. There's not a drum machine playing. There's somebody back there cutting, staying on beat, and flipping it. And that was my job. And that's what I did well.
Absolutely. Incredible. So let's talk about, you brought up the records, of course, late 70s. We're now going to go into the 80s, and I don't want to get your timeline wrong, okay? But talk to me about Zulu Beats Radio. I understand this is probably and most likely the first hip-hop radio show, and this sparked hip-hop radio, period. Talk to me about Zulu Beats Radio.
Well, I was at the Roxy's, the club, the Roxy's, which was basically the downtown, uptown, artsy, creative b-boy meets art world. Patty Astor, Jean-Michel Bastant, Andy Warhol, Keith Haring, meeting the Melly Mells, the Rocksteady Crews, and the African Bambaatas. And Cool Lady Blue was the one that masterminded that club called the Roxy's. So I was the DJ of the Roxy's. How I became the DJ of the Roxy's, Bambaata's success in hip-hop culture was spreading. They had to go on tour. They needed somebody to replace Bambaataa. And there was not a lot of people to look around that actually could play like him and had the record collection. So I stepped in as they went on tour to keep the continuity happening. So the Roxy's was the club. I mean, maybe it was like 4,000 people.
Absolutely.
In New York. That was banging it out because it was a roller skating ring. So they cleared it out. And before you know it, that was the spot. That was the place to be. So the deal is I cracked on doing a radio show. I was like, yo, we should be on the radio. Now, New York radio wasn't supporting hip hop.
Right.
They were supporting dance. They were supporting dance music. Jelly Bean Benitez, you know what I mean? They're supporting the Funhouse. They're supporting dance music, which is all cool because it's all the same family. But I got a chance to get on WHBI 105.9, and I started playing the tapes from the tour. Like I would play the live battle between Busy B and Kool Moe Dee at Harlem World. I would play the Rocksteady Crew live in, Japan, which is like 82, 83. I'm playing exactly live from the jams because that was the music. It didn't make any sense to play rap records when the real rap, it was really based in the Bronx and in some parts of Harlem. It didn't make any sense to not play what originally was still going on.
Right.
That's what was going on. Most people never got up there to see it. Most people definitely only heard it by somebody coming with a cassette tape. So this was my chance to just play what was normal for me. And that's the first hip-hop station. Other than anyone else, whether it was Magic, Supreme Team, they were playing rap records. They were playing R&B, and they were playing rap records, which was already produced. That's together a different entity. Rap is only one part of the entire circle of the elements of hip-hop. I was just playing the elements of hip-hop. And the people that were on the show reflected it. Fat Five Freddy, Crazy Legs, Tour 2000. These were the interviews that I was doing.
Right.
The brothers that were really in hip-hop, all forms of it. They came up, they told their story because they are hip-hop. That's what they do. Those are those elements you hear about. These are real people. And another thing that we started on the show was we were doing the shout-outs, mainly because the show was being played in all the OJs and all the taxi companies coming out of the Bronx. So you'd shout out the driver's name, whether he was my driver picking me up or you shout out any other driver, they would call up and be like, yo, nigga, shout my name, J5. And you like, yo, J5 on 125th Street. If you need a ride, put him on hold. That's how that happened. And then that's the call-in line. So Tuesday nights, and my assistant on the show, just so everyone knows, my assistant was Red Alert. And Donald D answered the phone. So when you actually called up, that's what you're listening to. That's what you're talking directly to Red. You're talking directly to Donald D. Because they wanted to be able to have a conversation with Fat Five Freddy. I could actually call him. Crazy Legs is on. Yo, his people are calling up. They want to make sure and especially if everybody had their radios on the corner blasting the show, you could easily spin that 25 cents and be like, yo, say my name, I'm out here.
Wow.
And on next thing you know, your name shouted out, your people are looking at you like, yo, you know them? And that's what the Zulu Nation was about. That's what the Zulu Beats was about. It was about playing the real hip-hop. And that's what we did.
And so that's
mixtapes.
Especially mixtapes. And see, and that's incredible because, I don't know if a lot of people know, that Zulu Beats Radio, that's where it all started for hip hop radio, right? And that radio show, and that's amazing that Donald D and Red Alert was a part of it with you. So, and by the way, the famous Roxy, that's the club that, was in the film Beat Street, obviously, right?
Yeah, right. That's right. Right. Beat Street came about because Roxy's was Roxy's. That's exactly right.
Right. Okay. So now we talking about the early 80s, all of these things that you've already done, right? In the parks, coming from the Bronx, and this amazing movement that's happening. When did you realize that we're changing the world here? What we're doing. When did you realize, what was going on?
Well, my first plane ride was like to Japan for the Wild Style tour. And it was Double Trouble, and it was Grandmaster Caz, Cold Crush. It was for Tour 2000. It was a Rocksteady crew. That's what I was, and I was there with them. So my first plane ride, I'm in Japan.
Wow.
And I'm playing for a whole nother crowd, and that's 83, the Wild Style tour. And then the next tour, we were in Hollywood, and next thing I know, Crazy Legs is stunt doubling for Jennifer Beals, and finally the world sees what breakdancing is when they actually thinking they're seeing her in Flashdance, but it was really Legs.
Right. That is absolutely amazing. Incredible.
So that's what the stamp on it. Boom, that's the stamp. You know, that's like real America going, yo, what? Oh, she could dance. But I was like, nah, that's him.
Right, absolutely. See, that's incredible because, you know, you were the DJ for Rocksteady Crew at that moment, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
So you're touring the world, not the country, the world on the Wild Style tour. So we got to be talking about, I mean, is this 83-ish now?
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely amazing. Okay, so now you've seen it. You see what, you know, wasn't even called hip hop at one time. You see what the hip hop culture, what Zulu Nation, the Zulu radio, and everything that you helped create and were a part of, what effect it was having on the whole world. That's amazing.
Yes.
Okay, so now at some point, I understand you move to LA and you start working with, you know, a new MC, Ice-T. Right. So
the collaboration was because I was on tour with Rocksteady, and we were playing in LA. So all the dancers from LA came to see the dancers from New York, Fable and Wiggles, Little Lep, and we're playing on Sunset. And the club scene in LA was the Radio Club, and they were bringing out, you know, the real MCs and real groups from the Roxy. That was the connection.
Yes.
So they were like, okay, we got the dancers, but we don't got that music. So let's bring out Kaz. Let's bring out African. So I was a returning DJ all the time. And who do you think was the MC at the radio? Was Ice.
Wow. Right.
And at that time, the biggest song on both coasts was Planet Rock.
Right. Absolutely.
So that was the unification. So me and Ice, when we got together, and I played behind him and Med Glove and Egyptian Lover, because I was already a B-boy with, you know, all the break dance music. I came with that gift. I came with the 808. I blessed Egypt with the 808. So Egypt went from him not knowing what the 808 was and loving Planet Rock to become an Egyptian Lover.
Absolutely.
I blessed Eazy-E and Dre when they were the World Class Wrecking Crew. Just at that point, at least Dre when he's World Class Wrecking Crew, you know, with the DMX.
So I don't mean to cut you off because I want you to keep going. But what's amazing about this is that I interviewed Egyptian Lover in the past, and he did tell me. He said he went up to you and was like, "What is that?
What is that?
What is that?" And you told him, and he went and bought it immediately.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And I did not know that you basically positioned Dre with the DMX, and they did use that on their some of those first recordings in the World Class Wrecking Crew.
I have the case I have the World Class Wrecking Crew case with me right now at Ice's house. I just brought it back. We just signed it, and I actually talked to Dre last week to let him know, yo, dog, I got the case.
Wow, that's amazing.
And he said, yo, as you know, I used to use the DMX, and then I would use the 909, but yo, the DMX was that was my, I'm like, Dre, I know, because we shared it in the beginning.
Right, absolutely. Okay.
So it's a family affair. I mean, I didn't do it for any accolades. And the deal with me and Ice was simply, that's where we met. And we stayed friends because we had similar backgrounds. He was an Army brat. He was an Army Ranger. That's what he was. But at the same time, I read Iceberg Slim. He knew Iceberg Slim. So there were certain things that we knew, and we were seriously about expanding for the brotherhood. We were about expanding and trying to keep shit moving for the brotherhood. He was into money already. I wasn't. I was into getting things done. So I didn't have the problem of, I knew how to execute things. So me staying on his couch, on his sofa, is the way it happened. And then him coming back to New York when he had 6 a.m, I was like, yo, you got to come back to New York. So he slept on my floor.
Wow. Okay.
And at the same time, in my house, of course, the turntables were up. Who do you think was in the house? Melly Mel and Kaz. These were my best friends.
Right.
So
right.
I sat down in the studio and wrote with them, and wrote, and then perfected his writing style and wrote with them. He didn't change to a New York style. They accepted him because we were all Zulus, simply for being what he doing and being what he is. But that's where the producing part came from. We were already producing before that. We cut a lot of records that never came out, we cut records in the sense that we went into the studio and wrote. We didn't need the record deal to do what we did creative. We just wrote.
Right. So I want to add some color to this because I want to build a little bit more on the Ice-T Africa Islam marriage, so to speak. So Ice had put out a few records that never get talked about, right?
Yeah.
Before 6 in the morning, right? We're talking about
Coldest Rap.
yes.
Coldest Rap.
Yeah.
How about Reckless?
Right.
I mean,
So, right.
Reckless?
Right. So you had Coldest Rap Part 1 and Part 2. You had Reckless. You had the Reckless Rivalry. You had Body Rock. You had You Don't Quit. You had, of course, 6 in the morning. You had Killers, right? So all of these particular records, Dog in the Wax, all these particular records coming out independently were classics, you know, on techno hop and you know, electro beat, et cetera, et cetera. Okay.
Right.
So you end up appearing in Breakin' to Electric Boogaloo.
Right. That's what stopped me from being on. I was supposed to be on, I was Power 106, High 90s, whatever it was back then. I was supposed to go to the meeting to leave HBI and then come over there to start the Zulu Beats there. What I did is I had a choice of being, you know, still a DJ with Red Alert and Bambaataa on the station or go do a movie. So I chose to go to do Breakin' 2.
A great choice. But by the way, that particular record that you perform with the Glove and Ice-T called Party People, right?
No, it was called, what was it called? Well, it wasn't, that wasn't the name of it, Party People. It was something else. But if you really look at who's on that stage, that's Body Count.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a two-man tag team which I did with Jay.
Jay, right.
Jazzy J. It's me doing it with Glove. And it's Ernie C. from Body Count. The lead guitar player of Body Count is the person that's on that stage.
Wow. Wow. That's history. 'Cause by the way, that record, it never really came out, right? That song,
no,
what was it?
It was only for the film.
Which is incredible. So I always thought the record was called Party People, but either way, it's a classic record that just was in the film. And that particular scene is
the name of it was called Go Off.
Go Off. Got you. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, it was called Go Off.
So here you are now. You know, you obviously did you relocate to LA or you just were there a lot?
I was sleeping on Ice's couch.
Got you. Okay. So now it's Africa Islam and Ice-T. You create this package. You end up producing 4 albums for Ice-T. Now I understand. Before the 4 albums, we're gonna get to that. You like you said before. You tell Ice, come to New York now. He did 6 in the morning. Right now, Unknown produced the original 6 in the morning. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's either Unknown or David Storrs. Yeah, if he said it's Unknown, yeah, that's what's up.
Okay, so
it came intact. 6 in the morning came intact, and 6 in the morning was based upon the Beastie Boys and kind of like Schoolie D.
Schoolie D, right?
It was based upon, yeah.
So he comes to New York, and then that's when you talk about the Zulu Kings record, and I believe another song was called Cars, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, we did Cars and we did The Beach.
Okay, Cars and the Beach, but it was Zulu Kings and it was produced by you. Okay.
Right.
So is this is where Ice finally got the record deal. Is that correct?
That's correct. Because they were going to sign all of us, but Kaz had a problem with Tough City. Mel had a problem with Sylvia Robinson, and even Bronx Baba signed to someone else. So he said to me and Ice, I'll sign you. So that's how he got signed to Sire Records on a solo deal.
Wow. Okay. So if you can quickly talk to me about these 4 albums that you now produced for Ice-T, right? Like Rhyme Pays, the album,
right?
Right. Can you talk to me really quickly about this process? Because these are all classic albums. And I don't think, this is why I said this in the beginning of the interview, is I don't think you get your proper due, your credit as a producer. Everybody talks about Islam, the DJ and the legend, but as a producer, you produced a lot of hit records. So can you talk to me about those 4 albums quickly that you worked on and produced for Ice-T?
Well, it was a matter of getting in the studio, which was basically our house, and his house, or my house, my apartment, his apartment, and actually sitting down and getting the SB12 and putting in all of the breaks that I had being the son of Bambaataa into, if you listen to the records, there's a lot of the original breaks in all of those records.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
Like Power is a B-boy record, actually, and he's rhyming over a B-boy record, but it's that speed from the West Coast because they were in the popping, and it's also B-boy speed. So he's up-tempo. So he's up-tempo while New York is down-tempo. Strange enough, he's the one that came to New York with a down-tempo record.
Right,
first.
right. 6 in the morning,
You know?
right.
6 in the morning. And 6 in the morning, the lines of 6 in the morning were based upon what his knowledge was with the police. But at the same time, I think a brother by the name of Larry Davis had just shot cops at 6 in the morning in New York. So New York kind of thought it was the theme song to Larry Davis shooting the police and then being on the run. So when Ice first did it at the Bronx, at the Prospect Theater, people were like, "Yo, he's speaking about Larry Davis." And it's kind of one of the first records where I think where Mel and Kaz and King Son, they were all there. You know, they were all at the Prospect Movie Theater as we do this one, hip hop event inside of a movie theater. Well, the deal was the fact that everybody did what they did. What I mean by that, everybody was able to go into a cipher and, one beat played and everybody, jumped on. So this is the original style. But when he did 6 in the morning, nobody at that point was listening to kind of like a gangish record, except for maybe PSK. But nobody had heard like that direct violence of, I beat the bitch down in the goddamn street.
Right.
That was, the message was don't push me because I'm close to the edge. That's a different record.
Right, absolutely.
That's a different mindset. So the deal is with Ice, what I did is I put music, because I had enough of it, enough music, enough knowledge in music into the SP1200 and to the 303 baseline in order really to just match what he's saying. Mood music storytelling, because that was his MO to me, was he could tell the story. So I matched it and I guess in a sense of a theatrical sense, I'm matching the music, whether it had to be strong beats or no beats, around what he's saying, because what he's saying was more important to me than being on a dance beat like Eric Beard or Dougie Fresh or Heavy D and the Boys or Tifa or Light or Boogie Down Productions. This was all about, for his point, was to tell that story of the West Coast, because most people only saw Baywatch. So that's what I did on all those albums. It was like he constantly came out with in a sense, reality rap. NWA definitely took it from 6 in the morning and went into it as a group, but they were the first ones to say, we're a gang. And what most people don't understand coming from the tri-state area, is like everything kind of like outside the tri-state area is the South. And that mentality is, as you could see it today, a little late, but you never, unless you touch down in LAX, once you get to LA, but you don't realize there's like 1 million gangbangs out there.
Right.
You go to Hollywood and you go to, Venice Beach and you go to you're going into Universal Studios and Disneyland. You're not going into South Central. If you would have went into South Central, you would have heard that they're listening to Atomic Dog and Bounce That Out, more Bounce to the Ounce. And once you get down there, you find out it's hood.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's where his songs, I had to adjust and go. Once I got introduced to the hood, I adjusted my music to be New Yorkish, but different from East or West Coast.
Right. And see, to me, that's that DJ ear and what you were doing as a DJ, and then, cultivating that into being a dope producer. And see, so for me, like, you did Rhyme Pays, Power, The Iceberg, Freedom of Speech, and OG Original Gangster. These four albums are classics. I had, the Rhyme Pays record, of course, Make It Funky, 6 in the morning, Squeeze the Trigger, right? And then
Freedom of Speech.
These are these are incredible records. I'm Your Pusher. Power. I mean, it's so many high rollers. I mean, I could just keep going of how many of these classic records. So it's almost like, Ice, you played yourself, exactly. And it's like Ice to me doesn't get his proper due as an MC either, as one of the greats. And you as a producer,
but he actually is. He actually is. Once you're creating the genre itself,
right?
Everybody that comes after you is a little part of you. No matter what they say, whatever falls out their mouth, they were listening to you as that guiding light.
Absolutely. I mean,
I don't think he did it for anything else except to do it, to tell his story, and that's what he did.
Ice was an ill MC from the beginning. You know what I mean? From the first, the coldest rap record that I heard to now, he was always ill and, ahead of his time. You know what I mean? And when I heard You Don't Quit and Dog in the Wax, I was like, yo, he is just an ill MC. So then I remember hearing Killers and then later on hearing Colors. Right. So it always worked. And then here comes gangster rap, reality rap,
so it's all birthed after him. That's correct.
Right. Okay. So now let's talk about this. 4 albums in, you're obviously touring the world with Ice-T now, right?
Yes.
You're in videos, you're in your Pusha video. Of course you were in Breakin' too, but let's fast forward. So now if you're 4 albums in, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about something that happened in between the albums. Now, of course, you had the Rhyme Syndicate compilation album, right?
Right.
But you also had the Colors soundtrack. Talk to me about the song. How did you approach producing this record, Colors?
Well, actually how it happened was Squeeze the Trigger was always already in the movie. So they found Squeeze the Trigger and they wanted to use it. And Dennis Harper was the director at that time. So when they asked Ice about Squeeze the Trigger, he said, yo, let me see the movie. And once he watched the movie, I mean, they already had a Colors in the movie. They already had a title, but it was done by Rick James. But it was done in a Rick James format. Mm. So when I saw the scenes, when he actually saw what they were trying to say, he was like, let's cut Colors, and it needs to be, the first words he was telling me is, yo, it needs to be sinister. It needs to be, say you're in a car and you're getting ready to hit a drive-by. They wouldn't be listening to Lou Rawls or Luther Vandross.
Right.
They would be listening to something. They would, if it didn't exist, you'd have to frame that scene where it's like they got to listen to something that's going to be nasty, dirty, and only they would understand it. Whether it's them smoking dust, or high on weed and liquor, you'd have to get into that mindset. So the minute it comes on, you go, oh, I'm in that mindset.
Right.
That's how Colors sold that whole nasty bass line.
Yes.
Now, the format of it was from Mythological, was from King Son. Because if you listen to King Son, he goes, when I get ill, it's a season, because it's the season, hunter over hunter. That's how, that cadence. So that's the cadence Ice used, and I wrote around it. I actually wrote around when he said, yo, I'm writing rhyme like colors. There was no beat, colors. And then when I put the beat in, it was to match what he was saying,
Okay.
And what I did but that's the idea. If you're going to get the story, it's the words first, the beat second.
Wow.
Most real MCs, lyricists, they'll write off of any beat, and then they'll format what they have to say from that particular beat when they actually have a break. Interesting things, when people take that breath of air, creates their rhythm. If you listen to Biggie, just listen to when he takes his breath, and you'll get, oh my God, he's on. It's like somebody that has asthma.
Right.
If that breath comes at the very last point, you need to take, and then the next bars come through. But once you get into that habit of writing that way, it becomes your MO. So if Colors was Ice's devilish song for gangs, it worked because it was the big. What I noticed, it was the big 808, and those were for motherfuckers that had cars.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you don't mind me asking, what did you use to produce Colors? I know you talked about
A 303
a Roland 303
and an 808.
and the 808. Wow. Okay. Got you. Yeah, because the bass line, everything about it is sinister. You know what I mean? And it's a classic record. So you were using multiple production and drum machines, right? I know you've used linked together. You've used the DMX in the past, the 808, the SP 1200, right?
Yes.
Wow.
All linked together. All linked and all linked and synced at different tempos.
Wow.
So you'd get the off tempo. You'd get something that was hitting off tempo, and that, according to James Brown, the things that you're getting that are hitting off tempo is the funk. According to George Clinton, that's what he said. It's between the bars that creates it.
So that's incredible. So you also worked with, like I had mentioned before, you worked on the Rhyme Syndicate album. You worked on Donald D's album, Toddy T, Africa and the Zulu Kings, just a few projects. How was it working on some of those? How did you approach those projects versus Ice-T's albums?
The idea was to just work on everybody's project, work on everybody's record based on what their skill set was. Some people need stronger beats, some people don't. And give them the ability to understand the production that I was doing so they could join in and put in their, their 2 cents. Because if they were dancers, if they were poppers, they're going to want to hear something that they can perform. If there's somebody that's a rhyme sayer like Donald D, he's going to want to perform by really holding that mic and not do any dancing at all.
Right.
So that's what it is. But if you think about what the syndicate was, Coolio was syndicate, Everlast was the syndicate, Muggs was the syndicate,
right?
Aladdin is the syndicate. This is all syndicate.
Absolutely. I love that album, and I remember Nat the Cat. What happened to Nat the Cat?
I think he just had family duties, but I think Nat the Cat was a sensation.
I think so too.
His rhyme pace was different. He actually danced in his performances because he was a dancer. He was a locker. He was a popper.
Wow.
And so that's why his rhyme style, to me, I thought his rhyme style was completely unique.
I did too. I love the record.
Completely unique. But Ice is taking people from his family members, from his past, that he dealt with and putting them into this new thing called hip hop.
Right.
That he had gotten exposed to. And he's like, yo, I know they hit him up like, yo, you need to put me on. Let me get out of this hustle game. And he said, okay, write something and let's try to record a record.
Absolutely. And what's so amazing about you, Islam, is, Ice-T is the foundation of West Coast hip hop, right?
Yep.
Egyptian Lover, The Glove, DJ Evil E, Joe Cooley, Rodney O, Arabian Prince and World Class, Lonzo Williams. I could keep going, but what's amazing about you in particular is you are a part of the beginning and the foundation of hip hop, period. From New York and LA. And LA. There's not a lot of people that can say that. And what I mean by that is not inspiration. I mean literally
on the floor.
Yes, sir.
I was on the ground floor. I was building it.
Absolutely. So salute to you, for actually participating in the foundation of hip hop on both coasts. That's incredible. Yeah. So
Snoop said that to me last week.
Yeah, it's unparalleled. It's an amazing feat, and that's another reason why I wanted to interview you, to just magnify your importance to the hip hop culture all the way around, not just New York. Not just LA
and not just Japan.
Right, absolutely. So
because we took it after the 4th album, I went to Japan to teach Zulu Nation, Zulu Nation hip hop culture in Japan, and start the Japanese, help start those that weren't involved in the J-pop, started working with the dancers over there and brought the dancers from, some of the members from Rocksteady over there to sit down and start teaching and start actually dropping seeds.
Wow.
And if you look at that, we definitely put it down in Asia because we were the first ones.
Absolutely. To move forward a little bit, in 1997, you released an EP called Afrika Jam. Talk to me about that.
Well, Afrika Jam in 1997 was something because I was touring as a DJ. And at that time, the techno scene from the brothers that were, I mean, you know, techno Detroit, it's brothers. So it was like most people think that was like, you know, more of a young white thing, but Detroit techno were brothers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From,
Okay.
you know, from Derek May and Jeff Mills and Ox 88. That's electronic music. That's electro funk. To me, it is, because I'm up tempo. Planet Rock is up tempo. You know, It's Time and all those records and all those Mantronic records and all that New York electronic stuff and the West Coast electronic stuff, that's all up tempo. So if you can understand, when I would go overseas and I would be like, yo, this music I'm familiar with. And I'm looking at these huge raves and, you know, I mean, really huge raves. When my first show I played overseas, that I got booked on some Mayday festival, it was like 60,000 people. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And it's pure DJ culture.
Right.
So for me, I was trying to figure this out, and I'm looking at DJs like Jeff Mills, and I'm looking at DJs like Carl Cox. And I'm like, okay, so these are the big boys of this dancing, but they're all former hip hop DJs.
Right.
And then I went, motherfuckers don't know this. So let me do what I do. So I played up-tempo electro, but Zulu Nation, you know, the whole cutting and the spin backs and everything else. I'm doing what I normally do. That became something which was a lost art to them because they never knew it. They never had that foundation. And those that were running it, they was just straight DJs. They were straight dance DJs. They put on a record, sat there, smoked a cigarette, mixed it, you know, 6 minutes later. And to me, that style to me was like, I respect it. That's a dance thing, but that's not me. So I came in flipping. Well, the same thing I would do if I'm playing behind MCs, I started doing by playing techno and dance records. I started only cutting in the best break part, you know, for the
Right.
and that shit's gone. Double records. So people were going, yeah, this motherfucker don't let the record play. And so so when I did Africa's Jam, I was just putting together a record that I could put ice on voice-wise, which was up-tempo, that I could play in Europe. I had no idea that, you know, you're looking at CNC Music Factory and you're looking at Rock the House Show. These records crossed over.
Right.
To both. So it was like when I did Africa's Jam, it was just something because the record company said, hey, we want to sign you to a major deal in Warner Brothers. And, you know, we see you doing this Mr. X stuff and dance. But it wasn't for that. It was for me respecting DJ culture and wanting to see if I could play with the best. It had nothing to do with wanting to produce a record. I mean, I could, but it more so was like, okay, if this Carl Cox is the best #1 DJ in the world, let me see if I can knock this motherfucker off.
Gotcha.
But I realized I was playing in his arena, and if I could come in second, I'm good, because to me, it was just skills.
Right.
You know, no politics, skills. So as I learned their records and I put together my program, I was knocking them off. Now, this is simply before internet and YouTube, because if this was being broadcast or this was being streamed, you would see me playing for 200,000 people. At the same time, you're walking out of your club thinking you had a great night and it was packed with 2,000. I'm playing for 200,000.
Right. Wow. So this is what brought on
97.
this is what brought on
That's
the
why-
EP Africa Jam.
That's why I went to Germany to do it, because they were throwing parties like Love Parade, and my partner over there as a tag team to create Mr. X and Mr. Y, what I created was me and West Bam, who was known as, and his name is West Bam, West Bambata. It was me and him coming together as a tag team, as a two-man team. So it's basically what I did in the Bronx, repeated, where I'm scratching over techno and EDM records, and we're playing as a tag team. Well, the Love Parade and the Mayday raves, Love Parade, when I played Love Parade in like 97, 98, it was 1 million people.
Wow.
And they were just jamming to whatever. So when we started putting on Planet Rock, 1 million people were jamming. So, you know, I had to look at that and know, like, damn, I must be one of the first DJs from the Bronx, an original hip-hop DJ that actually just scratched for 1 million people. How, I mean, if that's not bringing the hip-hop universe to other influences, then what is it? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean,
then what is it? What is this all about?
Absolutely. I mean, and that's incredible. And I wanted to ask you, because, I understand that you relocated to Europe, right? And
I went to Berlin because jumping on planes 17 times to play a club is a little bit rough.
Right.
I left in 2006 where I actually went and got an apartment there because I wanted to do, we cut the first Mr. X, Mr. Y album of me and West Bam cutting a record called New World Order, which was basically what I was trying to do was put some political lyrics on a dance record that should be funky. And the record was a straight beat, 4 to the floor, bass line from the group New Order and Planet Rock together.
Mm-hmm.
And I put political lyrics on top of it. And it happened, and it became a hit. The difference is what most people don't understand. It was a hit in 29 countries.
Wow. And you were under the moniker at that time,
Mr. X and Mr. Y.
Mr. X and Mr. Y. So for those who don't know, Mr. X is really Africa Islam. That's incredible.
That's what the deal was. So I was part of that. What people think is the EDM scene here. That shit. They were doing that there. On with millions of people.
Wow.
Because all countries would come to Berlin to go just, for a weekend and just, it was all just, people called it techno. There was techno, but it was Detroit techno. But it was more so like, my God, these fusions of different DJs. So I was immersed in a DJ culture still.
Right. I mean, it's hip hop. It's still, electro funk and all of that is still hip hop.
Exactly right. That's what it was.
Right.
So, it wasn't like the planes didn't fly. I just didn't come back and see I started doing TV. So every time it wasn't about him cutting records. His primary mission at that time was TV and movies.
Right. Absolutely.
So this was discussed. I said, yo, man, I want to go DJ. We've got Body Count going. We've done Lollapalooza. I really want to go over there and see if I can knock these dudes off. He understood my passion. I understood his.
Right. So all these years, right? So just like music, Ice, took a pause on making records, got more into movies, more into TV, and then and then here comes Body Count, which you were a part. You were a part of all of that, and and so then, and just like yourself, you take a pause from the music as Africa Islam, and you go back to your DJ roots, and you create this other character, Mr. X and Mr. Y, right?
Right. Electro techno. That's what we correct. Techno scratch. Doesn't that sound familiar?
It does sound familiar. It's hip hop.
Doesn't that sound like techno hop?
It does. It sounds like techno hop. Absolutely.
That's what we did.
Right. So talk to me about this. You've also done a lot of remixes. You've done remixes for Michael Jackson, New Order, to name a few. Talk to me about the remixes. How did you get into doing remixes? I mean, clearly it's a DJ thing, but talk to me a little bit about that.
The remixes I was asked to do, once again, it came through, I think, Cool Lady Blue, who was still doing everything she was doing as she moved up into the music industry. It really wasn't my forte. It was just simply that, I'm playing some VIP booth or something like that in one of these huge raves. And you got all these record executives that come in, to get their free drinks and all that shit. And then they're in there going, who the fuck is this dude that's cutting up all these records? I mean, he's playing everything. And that's what I was doing. Basic Zulu Nation, style. Not as Mr. X, this is Africa Islam. And then they're hearing, what we would have played at the Roxy's going, yo, man, this guy's cutting up Michael Jackson, and then he's cutting it underneath what, OPP. Then he's taking off OPP, and he's playing the beat from OPP, meaning like it's Substitution playing, and they've never heard Substitution. They only heard Naughty by Nature. So I'm playing the originals and cutting it up, and then just doing what a real DJ does. A Zulu Nation DJ, what we consider to be wild style. And they approached me, hey man, would you like to do a remix for, Michael Jackson? And I'm like, okay, and because they didn't know it was Africa Islam. and there was no name dropping. So by the time they got with me, and it's like, we want to do like We Will Rock You by Queen, and we want you to scratch on it, it's like, yeah, I kind of know who Rick Rubin is. He kind of taught him, it's not like, oh, Rick. It was more like when we saw each other in the studio, it was more like, oh shit, this is the person I needed to scratch on a record to make it original.
Right.
So it wasn't, you know what I mean? It just, I didn't pursue it like that, and I didn't name drop. So that's how these remixes came about, to do this for that person. I just didn't pursue it. It was more still, in LA, I ran a club called Water the Bush and United Nations, which is two of the primary clubs in LA.
Wow.
That basically is what yes, man. Water the Bush was the melting pot of Ice was an MC, Whip was the MC, Kaz was the MC, Mel was the MC, Donald D was the MC, Masters of Ceremony. I had my assistant was DJ Utaka from Japan, who was my assistant, ran by the Zulu Nation, ran by the Zulu Kings, Zulu Queens. One side of the room was Bronx Style Bob dealing with all the rock bands, the indie rock bands, which would have been Red Hot Chili Peppers and Fishbone. And then the other side of the room was Marcus Wyatt that was playing house music. And for LA, house music didn't even really exist. And this is one club.
Wow.
So it was based upon traveling around the world. So that's why my base in LA was so important, because we were running the primary clubs.
And what year would that be?
That's 88, 89.
Got you.
90. That's what that. So while I was in LA, it wasn't like I was just sleeping on Ice's couch. We had the main club.
Wow. So I know we're bouncing around a little bit. So how did you feel about the LA scene when you got there, right? Coming from New York, coming from the birth, the Bronx.
Yeah.
How did you feel, because you had Shabba Doo, you had the Electric Boogaloos. You already had a scene that we now look at as a part of hip hop. How did you feel when you went there? Ice-T, the whole thing.
I went there to DJ. So first of all, I was already me. Planet Rock was already out. And I was already at the Roxy's. I was already at the Mecca. So when I came on, people came to hear me play at their club radio. I was already playing 9 different versions of Planet Rock that they had never heard or never seen.
Right.
I had already put the 808 down and played it, and they were like, what the fuck is he doing? Yo, this is that record. But no, it was the drum machine. So they're dancing to the drum machine thinking he's throwing on another record, until they realize, that's Africanism. We're getting a taste of what's real out of New York. So when these brothers did their thing, and they're dancing off of funk music, I'm still the son of Bambaataa. I'm still the son of the master of records. So you don't think we didn't play, like Love Roller Coaster or More Bounce or Atomic Dog? All Zulu DJs did. That was part of our mainstay at James Brown. So I'm giving them the gift of, damn, this motherfucker's playing dance music, our dance music. That's what it was from me meeting them. I'm an ex-Zulu King dancer.
Right, absolutely.
So when I'm playing for them. They're like, this motherfucker's playing More Bounce to the Ounce, Atomic Dog. We better get our crip walk on, or we better lock. And that's what the relationship was. I didn't come there to go, yo, I'm the king of rock, and ain't no higher. I came there to DJ. Back to the same thing.
Right.
I came to play music for dancers. And I've maintained that throughout the world. I came to play music for dancers.
Absolutely.
I didn't come to do anything else.
And it always
it
always seems to come back to just wanting to DJ, right?
Well, for me, I mean, that's the foundation. You got to understand, as I'm going through all of these different stages and staying where I'm playing music, just by playing music as a DJ, you're also looking at the rise of the MC, the rise of the record label. And as you get the rise of the record label and you're getting hip-hop, rap records on air, then you're creating these demigods. You're creating the artist that fills a shoe, and it's less on the DJ. Now, up until, if you look back at just the records and the groups, Kane had dancers. Big Daddy Kane had dancers. He had a great DJ.
Right.
Public Enemy had a great DJ. Terminator X these were mainstays. These people all had solos because that's how good they were. You're looking at foundation. And then where's that DJ now? I remember going to a 50 Cent show, and the DJ, he had a drum machine or a playback machine, and he put his towel over his neck.
Right, yeah.
And he pushed the button.
Yeah, he had an instant replay. Yes, sir. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And then if that's where that is, it's based upon the rapper and the hit record. It's not based upon the DJ.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I have a few more questions for you. So with you being a pioneer in techno, funk, and hip hop, how do you feel about, techno music and the new EDM craze and this music scene? How do you feel about it?
Well, that's why Being Ice created Electronic Beat Empire, the label, 2 years ago. And that's why we've been spending more time on working on the Mr. X image and Mr. X records. Because even in the EDM scene here, that's old for me.
Right.
Because I actually really dealt with an electronic scene in Europe. And in Britain, I really dealt with one. I really dealt with the 2 million people in a park playing for free.
Yes.
Not, give me but the same thing happened there is similar to hip hop. The DJ went in the studio, produced the record. Radio stations in Europe, you got to remember, everybody doesn't speak English. So the radio would play records that are basically instrumentals. Because there was a good instrumental record, it could get played it could get played by 30 countries and be number one. And most of these EDM records are basically based on females.
Right. Absolutely.
Melodic beats, melodic females. So they took the foundation of trance music, which came from Berlin, Germany. Paul Van Dyke, this is all DJs who I know, who I've dealt with. They took that foundation, put female lyrics on it. There's an up, there's a breakdown, and you have a homogenized snapshot of what a rave would be on radio. Now, once radio stations across Europe started playing DJ cultured music, it became lucrative. At the same time, the next thing that happens in parallel is the DJs who were playing before, who were not successful, they started creating programs like Ableton created by DJs.
Right.
So now the accessibility of creating music inside your bedroom and not an expensive studio exists.
Absolutely.
And then now that people are in their bedroom creating it, you have more producers popping out because technology costs less. You don't need, now the advent of computer power and sampling, you don't actually need somebody in there singing. You don't need a studio. Somebody could send that to you.
Absolutely. So you clearly approve of the current state of the DJ, and you're definitely an advocate for technology, right?
Well, it's fine. It's something that there's something that I say about the technology that I believe in. It's what I said, my statement in the beginning, which was there's a lost art to it. There's a lost art going on. Has nothing to do with technology. It has to do with skill set. And right now there's so much technology, it's basically the skill set doesn't exist. So you have to use technology to upgrade. Let's put it like that. Not the skill set, the upgrade. So if you look at an EDM DJ play, let's say dancers, say it's Steve Aoki. Steve will push a button. He might be a good DJ, but he'll push a button and the light show starts. Mm-hmm. And he's an entertainer, and that's his thing. If you look at a Tiesto, or if you looked at an Avicii when he played, he had good records. People loved them. He got on and played, wasn't a great mixer, did his thing and played. But the light show carries a lot of weight. That's what you're looking at. And if you look at the American version, which is a marshmallow, that's a blank state that you can just put on anybody. It's just a blank brand. Has a marshmallow head, comes out, he plays for kids, but the kids like him, and but still, there's a record being made. Now, if you put Flash and Marshmello in a room with some vinyl, and it wouldn't matter what the records are, Flash could play.
Right. Absolutely. 100%.
And and then basically that's the only example I could possibly give you.
Right,
is
right.
because if you put these two elements together, if you put a Carl Cox in the same room with a DJ, or a hip hop DJ, or a trap DJ that actually doesn't really play records or CDs, that Carl Cox dance DJ would crush him because he actually really plays.
Right, right.
Skill set. There's a loss in the skill set. So, I just say, pull out your laptop, and if somebody puts in a stick by mistake and you get a virus, your set is done.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, there's definitely the difference, no question about it. And the skill set is lacking, no question. But
skill set.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to me. You brought up the digital record label that you launched with Ice-T and
electronic beat. Yes, EBE stands for. EBE is basically a gray alien. That's what it really stands for. But it's Electronic Beat Empire. And what we're doing is we started out, America started out thinking that, hey, this is going to be Ice-T's dance label, and we're going to have some singers on it, that all sound the same, and we're going to sound like, Dead Mouse or anybody else. I was like, no, that's not what we're going to do, because there's already a Dead Mouse. Why would we want to sound like any electronic music producer at all? We're going to go back and do what we do, and we're going to flip it. So some of it's going to be dubstep with gangster rap on it. Some of it's going to be 4 to the floor with a singer, but then with an artist like Donald D on it.
Right.
We're going to go because it's going to be it has to be a hybrid because it's us.
Got you. And
of course, because I've seen both sides.
Right.
The only thing, the only thing is just the marketing, the show, and the music placement. And I understand because everybody's been trained for the last 20 years. Their music placement is dance music goes like this, and this. So we'll make sure it's this, and this, but has nothing to do with what those DJs or those producers do. We won't be a Guetta.
Got you.
We won't.
So this, you would say that this is the most recent projects that you're working on. Is that correct?
Oh, that's exactly right. We're doing it. We'll do a remix of Colors that'll be more electronic with the same lyrics.
And what's the name of the label again? One more time.
Electronic Beat Empire, EBE Nation. EBE Nation.
Electronic Beat Empire is the new label. This is an Ice-T Africa Islam initiative, but you're going behind the name Mr. X, correct?
Well, Africa Islam's producing it. Ice-T's the executive producer, but Mr. X, because Mr. X is one of the artists, but he's coming from that German techno electro background, not the American techno electro background. But in real sense, Planet Rock was Kraftwerk and Africa Bambaataa.
Absolutely.
So that German, Trans-Europe Express was Kraftwerk, but it seeped its way into music in the South Bronx that actually was part of the origination of hip hop.
Absolutely.
So
incredible.
You can't say the collaborations weren't already there. They were already there.
Absolutely. And it seems like it all comes full circle. And
I think it all goes on at the same time. People just have a short viewpoint. It's a short, it's a focused viewpoint. They see this, they think it's new, but it's 20 years old. They see that, they think it's new, but that's 20 years old.
Right. Absolutely. It's amazing to sit and talk to you about your vast history from the 70s, with Rocksteady, with the Zulu Kings, Zulu Nation, and everything that you've done with Ice-T, the films and all the albums, the classics, and, what you've done for techno hop, for techno, for EDM, for electro funk, you know what I mean? And the foundation of hip hop, both coasts. It's just amazing. Your story is incredible. And
just put it in work.
Yes.
I just put it in work. Simply just put it in work.
And
that's all.
And I've always felt like
about success.
I've always felt like you were underrated as a producer. So I just wanted to salute you on all the records you've produced and everything.
I just didn't realize we were supposed to be rated. I didn't think that was. I just simply did not think that's what it. I still don't. I don't think that's what it's about.
Right. It's about the music, right?
Well, I'm there from day one of hip hop, and people saying hip hop itself was a fad. I was there before it was called hip hop. This is what we did. I mean, when I see what people call hip hop culture and it's really rap, it's like I was wearing those Clyde Pumas and Adidas with, big laces and graffiti on my pants. That was my regular wear with my Diddy Bop walk in the South Bronx as a 16-year-old. I didn't emulate someone else.
So would you say that you're 45 years into this, 46?
I guess so, because I know I definitely was 16 when I had my Lee jeans pressed, with the big bells at the bottom and, ripped out the fabric so I could have that, that white thread coming out the bottom. I know I had my shell toes when I was walking to high school with my hoodie on. So if somebody's wearing a hoodie now or something on, a graffiti, I didn't emulate them.
Right,
They're still looking like us.
Absolutely. Well, Afrika Islam, you're definitely one of one, and you're an icon. So before we get out of here, can you give me one Afrika Islam story that our listeners might not know from your past? It doesn't matter. It can be from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s to now. It could be with Ice-T. It doesn't matter. Can you just give me one quick story of something historical that happened in Afrika Islam's career?
I guess the most historical part that I possibly could say was they said that we couldn't do it. They said hip-hop would never last. They said it was a fad. Said it would never happen. Record company executives said, where's the hook? They said, all you guys are doing is talking, and there's a beat. I don't understand it. They said that when we were getting on Lollapalooza. They said the hip-hop group could never play Lollapalooza, which was a bunch of, alternative rock bands. So we brought out Body Count, and we said, fuck the police, and we said, cop killer. And they didn't listen to us then. But all of a sudden, isn't that the same thing that's going on right now? Police brutality?
Absolutely.
We said it then, We said it then, and I don't think they listen. And you're dealing with it, 35 years later? And now we're up for the Grammys again. And ICE is on TV playing a cop. And we're still together writing for Sony Extreme Music. We're writing music for the movies, and we're accepting new, younger artists to get on, is what we're doing right now as I'm speaking.
Wow.
We're doing 24 tracks for Sony Extreme for music, licensing and placement in TV and movies. We're doing that right now. And at the same time, we're also writing the last Ice-T album.
Wow. That's
and
incredible.
Body Count. So if that's the story, that's the journey. And I guess I'd finish it off by saying, well, in 2024, I think, B-boys are going to the Olympics.
Yes, sir.
So I guess I've done my job.
Well, I would say your legacy is written, and Afrika Islam is job well done is all I could say, right?
That's all it's needed. Job well done.
Absolutely. So Islam, how can our listeners continue to follow you?
Anytime you see Ice, you're seeing me. Anytime you're seeing Jazzy J, you're seeing me. And, Electronic Beat Empire. Just go to the website. EBE Nation, electronicbeatempire.com.
What about social media? Anything?
Well, that's the way to go. Just go there. electronicbeatempire.com. Just go there. Things are up there. You'll see it. MrXShow.com. You'll see it there. Oh, yeah, that's right. We're doing a TV show based on Mr. X. Go there.
Wow.
That's what we're doing right now.
It never ends.
So we're doing. Yeah, it's just time for it. It's just time.
Absolutely. So listen. So Afrika Islam, it was a pleasure and an honor for me to talk with you and interview you about your vast career. You are an icon, a legendary DJ, producer, and clearly a hell of a busy man. You know what I mean? So I want to thank you, for taking
more praises to the Hip Hop Hall of Fame. More praises to the Hip Hop Universal Hip Hop Museum that's opening up in the Bronx.
Yes.
Well intended and well overdue. And I'm a DMC world champion. I mean, I've earned my stripes. I've earned my stripes on the battlefield as far as the DJing goes, for putting in the work and putting it. So that's what's up.
Absolutely. I mean, everything that you've done from the foundation, of hip hop in the Bronx to one of those first radio shows to launch hip hop radio with Zulu Beats Radio. What you did in LA with the whole scene, the clubs, club radio, Electric Boogaloo, the Breakin film, Ice-T, and again,
Water the Bush.
Absolutely.
Gotta give it up to Water the Bush. Yep, gotta give it up to them too. Water the Bush, gotta give it up to United Nations. Those clubs are important. Gotta give it up to the Roxy Club. Those clubs are important because that's where the melting pots happen. That's where you saw, Beastie Boys. That's where you saw Run DMC. That's what you saw them for the first time. And then it went on. For everybody down south, the Dope Jam tour was the ones that touched the South and the rest of this country. The Dope Jam tour is the tour that had Hammer opening up and Public Enemy as the closer. And all in between, Boogie Down Productions, Queen Latifah, MC Lyte, Big Daddy Kane, EPMD. Those, Dougie Fresh, those are the tours that I was on that put down the seeds that what you look at as hip-hop culture all across America. If you're playing a beat and you're rhyming off of it, that could be traced back.
Right. Absolutely. And listen, I want to thank you for everything, every contribution and everything that Africa Islam has done for the culture, because if there was no Africa Islam, hip hop wouldn't be as we see it today. Right. So with that being said, I want to thank you for allowing me to interview you for Vinyl Esquire. Vinyl Esquire is the DJ podcast that uplifts the DJ culture and honors our legends. And you are an iconic legend. So with all that being said, I want to thank you. You have now been listening to the legendary DJ, the legendary producer and icon, the legendary Africa Islam.
Right. Peace.
Hello world, I want to welcome you to Vinyl Esquire, the podcast that delivers culture, truth, music.
Well, it's HBI, and you better believe that with the son of vampire on the Wednesday eve, it's guaranteed to be the sound that you all enjoy, because you know the Prince of John is the real McCoy. So sit back while you listen to the Zulu beat, and if you feel good enough, you can pat your feet, because every ounce that you hear on your radio, the Zulu rocks your shot, and your mind will blow to reach your destiny. And when we know the DJ that we call Africa Islam will produce, fight, win, conquer, please believe the second amazing from 1 to 3 on every Wednesday. Set it down to 105.9 the FM, because we're rocking is the best you find. And my name is Daddy O, and I'm the GMC. Down with the set design 3MC. Give you a blast of the right and pop on the station WHBI. So check it out, y'all, and you don't stop. I keep on to the break of dawn, and your lady keep me rocking on the house mouse, y'all. You don't stop, y'all. You don't quit, y'all. Cause it's legit, y'all. And that's it, y'all. I do the funk your beat, while you back your hand, stomp your feet. Come on and boogie on down until you can't compete.
Stepson Sonic 3MC sent me this tape a while ago, and I've been rocking it ever since. Now, for all your MCs and DJs out there that want to get a tape to me, like some of the DJs that sent it in, tonight it was Wanda D and Cisco. They got theirs played, and the Fabulous 5 MCs. Now, what I got coming up in the program, I got a mix by yours truly, Africa Islam, and of course Red Alert handles it. And what I got coming up, I got an interview with the 3D Electric Boogie Dancers, and they'll be Speedy and E.T., and they'll be in here for their interview. And of course I got the Jazzy 5 MCs in Patterson, New Jersey live. But everybody wants to get on a break, and everybody wants to hear a break, so I guess it's about time for some people to start getting a break, right, Larry? Yeah, I think it's about right.
To the sinkable Satin Island. Hey man, before you sink, this one's for all you homeboys out there. This is the Zulu Beat, funky show on the radio with Africa Islam, the son of Bambata. So call us now at 873-1120 or 873-1121. For all you New Jersey homeboys who I've heard been doing a lot of tripping, this is for you. Keep your seat. Hey yo.
Welcome to another beat on the Zulu Beat. Assalamu alaikum and peace, Saki, peace. Funky, fresh, and new.